same week. Brilliant, Eliza. We at Granger Community School are privileged to have such a gifted student in our midst. Bravo. Since then, Zach Smellman and his bully buddies had taken every chance they could to remind him that his little sister was smarter than he was, which was funny coming from a group of guys still taking third-grade math. Jonah sighed loudly and finally forced himself to climb down from the top bunk. He pulled his clothes on quickly in the dark. Still half asleep, he staggered down the stairs, landing in a chair at the weathered wooden table beside Jeremiah, who was halfway through his bowl of frosted flakes. Eliza was already finished with breakfast and waiting by the door impatiently, her book bag strapped tightly to her back. "Mom, why did Jeremiah and I have to share a room?" Jonah's mom smiled at him sleepily, pushed the wispy blonde hair from her face, and planted a kiss on his forehead. Even in her rumpled bathrobe, Eleanor Stone was stunning. Tall with wide shoulders, hair pulled back in a ponytail, she commanded attention wherever she was. "Haven't we been through this before, dear?" she said, running her fingers through his thick black hair. "We only have 3 bedrooms, and Eliza's a girl. She needs a room to herself." Jonah sighed. He imagined what it would be like to have a room to himself, where none of his stuff got bothered and broken, where he could lock the door and play video games or read a comic book without being pestered. "What would you like for breakfast, hon?" "Cereal is fine," he said, snapping out of his fantasy. He shook the flakes into a chip green bowl while she poured milk from a plastic jug. "Where's Dad?" "He had a late meeting at the church last night, so he's sleeping in this morning." Jonah nodded, crunching on his cereal slowly. His dad was the pastor of All Souls United Methodist Church in Peacefield, and late-night meetings were a regular thing. "Don't forget your basketball shoes and shorts, dear," she said, using one hand to try to tame his mane of hair. "Tryouts are today, remember?" It was often easy for Jonah to forget things, like homework. He forgot to do 2 English assignments last week. Or chores. His parents had started attaching brightly colored notes to his tennis shoes and video games. But forget that basketball tryouts for the middle school boys team at Granger Community School were today? It was all he had thought about for weeks. True, he was a little shorter than most of the boys in his class, but he was fast, and he had been practicing in his driveway every single day for the last month. He was ready. "Yeah, Mom, I know," he said, munching a little quicker, suddenly feeling more awake. His mom lifted his chin with her finger and looked at him with her bright green eyes. "Just know that whatever happens, your father and I are very proud of you." Jeremiah suddenly hopped up and wrapped his arms around Jonah's neck, tightly squeezing as he talked, so hard that Jonah coughed up some of his breakfast.
"Yeah, Jonah, we are proud of you."
Eliza still stood at the door, her arms crossed and scowling. She wore a pink, sparkly blouse and a black skirt with leggings. Even Jonah had noticed she was dressing differently this year. No more sweatpants and raggedy t-shirts. But she was still his little sister. Yes, we are all so proud of you, big brother," she said sarcastically. "Now, can we get going, please? You're going to make us miss the bus." They had to run to the bus stop, but they made it. In almost no time, the bus pulled up to a campus of large, 1-story brick buildings. Granger Community School sprawled out in every direction, connected by an intricate spiderweb of cracking concrete walkways. Jeremiah stood at the bottom of the bus steps waiting patiently for his big brother.
"Come on, Jonah, take me to class."
When school started, their mom made Jonah promise he would walk his brother to his class. But that was 4 weeks ago. "Shouldn't you know your way to your own room by now?" Jonah thought as he looked down at Jeremiah. Jonah sighed, knowing it wasn't worth the argument. "Fine, but I'm not holding your hand." He dropped his head a little lower as he walked beside his brother, who happened to be skipping. As a 7th grader, Jonah knew nothing good was going to come from people seeing him walk around every morning with a little kid wearing a Scooby-Doo backpack. Jonah dropped Jeremiah off at his classroom and then hurried to the 7th grade hallway, entering his first class just as the bell rang.
"Nice kicks, Stone. Been shopping at the Goodwill store again?"
The boy sitting around Zach Smellman's desk snorted, and he grinned at Jonah with his arms folded. Gritting his teeth, Jonah reminded himself that the first day of basketball tryouts started this afternoon. Smellman was not going to get the best of him today. So he didn't let it bother him later that morning when he got back his science test and only scored a 78. He was not shaken when his math teacher gave the class 2 hours of extra homework. All he could think about was what was going to happen.